Welcome, my dear wanderers through the shadows. I am Violet Nocturne, your guide tonight through the tangled labyrinth of fear and fascination. Have you ever sensed that something invisible binds us all? Not the frail strings of duty or affection, but a thread knotted with something ancient, something darker. Tonight, let us explore what happens when those threads twist, fray, and snap. Our story is called The Red Thread. Picture, if you will, a modest collector's shop hidden in the suffocating maze of a bustling city. The kinds of places you might pass every day, but never truly see. Nestled between the decaying bricks of its facade is a single display, an antique spool of red thread. It's marked simply, "For the Curious." Intrigued? Of course you are. Miriam, our protagonist, is one of the curious. A craftswoman by trade, and perhaps more importantly, a woman searching for answers. A family shattered by mistrust, friendships dissolved without explanation. Miriam lived her life weaving beauty out of fabric, but she could never weave harmony out of people. She steps into the shop, the bell overhead jingling faintly, as if to announce more than just her arrival. A shopkeeper emerges from the shadows like a figure plucked straight from folklore, aged, inscrutable, and remarkably silent. His wares are laid out in chaotic precision, intricate clocks that freeze time, mirrors holding faces not our own, and books that hum faintly when opened. But it's the red thread that steals Miriam's focus. She barely hears the shopkeeper's whisper, "Be careful what you stitch." Curiosity wins over caution, as it always does, doesn't it? She purchases the spool and returns home. At first, it seems ordinary enough, just crimson thread pliant between her fingers. But rather than the quilts and garments she's used to sewing, Miriam decides to test its limits. She threads the spool through her needle and, in an impulsive act, starts stitching a small, heart-shaped charm for her best friend Catherine, a subtle apology for an argument they'd never truly resolved. By midnight, Miriam is almost finished. It's an exquisite charm, woven so finely it seems otherworldly. As she sews the last loop into place, she pricks her finger on the needle. A bead of blood forms, then vanishes, absorbed into the thread. Strange, yes, but who among us hasn't ignored warning signs cloaked in the mundane? The very next morning, Miriam's doorbell rings with a ferocity it rarely hosts. Stumbling groggily to answer it, she is met with, and I kid you not, a tearful Catherine. The estranged friend is thanking her profusely for the heart-shaped charm that arrived just in time, confessing it saved her from making the worst mistake of her life. Miriam hasn't sent it yet, but there it is in Catherine's trembling hands. Then, Miriam sees it. A faint red thread running from the charm back into her coat pocket where the spool remains. Oh yes, Miriam. You've tethered yourself to her now. Testing this newfound connection becomes something of a dark sport for Miriam. She weaves a charm for her brother James, who hasn't been heard from in months, and for an absentee employer holding her overdue paycheck hostage. As each piece is finished, the person changes. Apologies spill forth effortlessly, rifts quietly seal. But with each thread she uses, the spool grows heavier, not lighter. Its once vivid color deepens to a blackened crimson, and Miriam begins to notice other threads crisscrossing her life, seeping from her walls, pooling like cobwebs in untouched corners. Soon, her body aches. Bruises appear, threading themselves in unseen patterns across her arms and chest. Worse yet, her consciousness frays. Insomnia becomes her constant companion. She begins seeing things in those threads. Faces, voices that weave faint whispers, accusations, pleas. These voices grow bolder when Miriam tries to stop. The spool, silent and inert before, now begins sliding across her desk by itself, urging her on, demanding to weave more connections to envelop her. When she finally decides to destroy it, she chooses fire. But the flames extinguish themselves as if suffocated. In the smoke, she imagines, or does she, the shopkeeper's faint, knowing smile. Miriam sinks to her knees. She threads the last of the crimson strands into her needle, this time stitching herself a simple bracelet. Just to ease the weight, she thinks. Just to understand it better. You can imagine the rest. Miriam was found days later, encased in a suffocating web of her own creation. The red thread had unraveled and spread throughout her home, tethering her to every person she tried to fix. Their sins, their flaws, weaving back into her. The authorities baffled by the unearthly material with no source, its origins, like so many horrors, left unexplained. So, do you still crave to understand the ties that bind? Fear not, my darlings. Human connections were never meant to be unraveled. They are meant to remain messy, tangles of imperfection and grace. Beware the temptation to weave perfection where chaos is more honest. And our time ends here, though the threads of this tale may linger in your dreams. Until next time, when we meet again in another shadow of the dark. Sleep, if you dare.